Hello, everybody. Do you hear me now? Please tell me if you hear me. I need to know right now. Is my voice out there? Please answer me as soon as possible. This is not a test. I need this answer now. Today, I will be reading story that I found on Reddit. It is called The Meat Room and written by someone who is named PSHoffman. Let's begin. I used to work in a lab that worked on projects like this. Back when I was in college, it was off campus, but it wasn't too far out of my way. I only have one story from the time there. It's a story I never told anyone before. There were two rooms. One we called the tech room, which was where all the metal and the electronics were kept. I worked in the tech room, so all I had to do was walk into the building, pass the three doors, and go into the fourth. Dr. McKay, who was my supervisor, had me building electrodes every day. It was tedious, finicky work, but student loans weren't going to pay themselves. I don't know if there was an official name for the other room, but my fellow techs and I doubted. The meat room. None of us were allowed in there. Only Dr. McKay and his partner, Dr. Edmonds, went in. Edmonds was this old, fat mole of a man, at least a whole head shorter than me. I think he was on the spectrum or something, because he never said much and he never looked you in the eyes. You always got the feeling he was inspecting your mouth or your chest or whatever. Him and McKay used to get into fights a lot. McKay always said that Woods wasn't following protocol or something, was tiptoeing the rules. I didn't think much of it, just thought he didn't like the way Edmonds cut corners. Sometimes their arguments could be heard even through the door to the meat room. The door to the meat room was this big industrial strength door, but that wasn't the weirdest thing about it. The weird thing was that it locked from the outside, so that whenever Edmonds or McKay wanted to get out of the meat room, they had to knock on the door and one of us would let them out. You would always get this blast of a chill, wet air like a cold humidity. Whenever you opened the door, I guess that's why they kept the room separate, because the humidity wouldn't corrode the electronics. Corrode the electronics again. One night, I was working late in the tech room. The other two techs had left early. I think they were banging each other at the time, so it was just me and my electrodes. I had headphones in. I was jamming out to some old draft punk discovery era. All these wires and circuit boards and stuff spread around my table like an autopsied guts of robot. McKay had sent me an email a week ago telling me that he had an emergency and would be out of town, but that he still needed me to finish 12 more electrodes by the end of the week. So I was tinkering away, bobbling my head to some tunes when I thought I heard something. It was this gentle tapping sound, so quiet that at first I thought it was just my music. I took out my headphones and listened. Tap, tap, tap. I looked around the lab, all this dusty, half-used equipment sitting in the shadows, the shower curtain hanging like a ghost, and yeah, I'll admit, I was a little spooked. I kind of figured it was just water faucet leaking, so I ignored it and went back to my room. But I didn't put my headphones back in, just in case. Tap, tap, tap. I got up and poked my head out into halfway. There wasn't anybody out there. The fluorescent light in the halfway were all still on, and I could hear this distant hum. One of the janitors, on another level, vacuuming or something. So I went back, sat down, but before I could jam my headphones back into my ears, I heard it again. Tap, tap, scratch. My blood froze. I wish I had kept my headphones in. I knew where it was coming from. When I turned around, the deadbolt on the meat room door, that oblong streak of silver, was rattling in its place. My blood froze. I didn't want to move, but now the tapping sounds was unmistakable. It was a big, insist knock. There was nobody in there as far as I knew. McKay was out of town. I had personally let Edmunds out almost 4 hours ago. Unless he had slipped back in when I wasn't looking. But I got up. My feet were heavy. I had my hands out in front of me, almost like when you're walking blind in the dark. My hand touched the deadbolt, cold and slick with water, almost as if it was sweating, and I flicked it open. I waited by the door, holding my breath, waiting for Edmunds or whoever it was to come out. Tap, tap. I could hear the sound, scrabbling, scratching, coming from the lower part of the door. Yet, the door itself never opened. I shouldn't have opened it. When I pushed against the heavy metal frame, it caught, as if there was something holding it closed on the door side. I pushed a little hard and I heard the sound, this bed flopping sound, sweeping along the door. The only lights in the meat room were the emergency lights, casting this slicky yellow glow over everything. I saw vats almost clear liquid, some of them large enough to hold a child, bubbling quietly against the far wall. In the middle of the room, curtains of meat and muscle hanging from metal racks, splayed wide so that you could see the veins through transliquid tissue. In one corner, I thought I saw moss growing and piles of white stone. On second glance, I realized what it was. Clumps of hair and teeth and bone. The door pressed back against me. Hello, I called it out. No answer. I poked my head around the door, expecting to see Edmunds or one of the techs starting back at me from shadows. It was lying on the ground, screaming, fingers and muscles joined together by metal joints, in some hideous pile of human parts. It was all wrong. Nothing was where it should have been. An organ barely concealed by a thin layer of skin, pumped weakly, the scar tissue swelling with blood before shrinking and pushing blood to other parts of the thing's body. There were hands and arms, too many to count, all sleek and shining with humidity and sweat. At the top of the pile of too many limbs, a clump hair sat on top of lump that was sewn onto that thing's body. It took me a moment to realize that it was a head I knew for too well. McKay's face was contoured in this grotesque half grin. Part of his face dropped as if he had a stroke. His cheek and half of his mouth was pulled tightly so the skin could be sewn to the mass of flesh crawling on the floor, crawling towards me. The sound it made when it moved I will never forget, like a swarm of drugged rats scrabbling across a slippery floor. It gurgled as it moved, and I realized that it was trying to talk to me, trying to speak. Kill me, please. There was drool dripping from its mouth, and it dismoved. The head rolled sickeningly, sliding along the floor. I couldn't do it. I slammed the door shut and ran the hell out of the lab. I never went back. I never told anyone what I saw. I still see it when I close my eyes. That thing in the meat room. I wish I'd done what it asked. The end. This was so stressful. I don't know. Okay, guys. It's like I had so many moments where I was just trying to read and can't even pronounce the words right. Yeah, next time I will read something more simpler than this. Okay, done with first story at least, so I'm not ashamed of that. Bye.